Welcome everyone to this week's recording of WOEFM. Today we're speaking about the power of words. How appropriate that we're speaking about it. We have two people who are eminent when it comes to both spiritual leadership and natural medicine, and they know firsthand what power words have on life, on the vibration and energy worldwide. So Mindy, welcome. You recently published your book, How Do I Speak God's Word? PwC Publishing. And it's brilliant. I have to tell you, it's one of the most impactful books that I read recently that, you kind of, when you finish, it keeps processing. And we have, of course, Dr. Lemmon, who helps us stay true and stay curated in the WOEFM. So welcome, guys.
Good to see you.
So we are going to speak about Mindy's book, but in it, we're going to go straight to it. In it, Mindy does a great job at bringing the awareness to Dr. Masaru Emoto's work, his research. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Dr. Lemmon, about the impact of words. Of course you are. About the impact of words on water. So tell us about it, Mindy. How did you come familiar with it, so much so to include it as such a key element of your book?
Yeah, it's one of those things that just kind of popped up. I always feel like God just brings me what I need to have. And it was just so interesting because it wasn't just this that kind of all came up at the same time. It was, people talking negatively or positively to plants, and also, talking negatively or positively to rice water. So there's all of these other experiments besides Dr. Emoto's. And then they have this one lady who's an artist, and she speaks to the water and then freezes it, and then it creates a design. And then there was this other study that people did where they actually put a word underneath a petri dish with water in it, and then they would freeze it. And they had one that said schizophrenia on it, and two faces showed up on the ice. So, it just kind of blew my mind. But then when I think about it and we think about the Bible, God spoke the world into existence, and he spoke to water. And then think about it. He spoke to water and he separated the water. And so think about what we are, plants and us, we're about 60 to 80% water. So if water holds memory, if water can hear what we're saying and it actually holds that memory and can create a shape out of it, that's why we have to be so careful with what we say to ourselves and what we say to other people. And that's also why we're supposed to pray over our food, and we're supposed to bless other people.
I had not thought about that. Dr. Lemmon, love to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, the power of words. Like if you think about all ancient cultures and ancient religions, you have mantras that are these words that are frequency and vibration. You have prayer, you have singing hymns and chants. So all these are words as vibration, right? So it has the auditory vibration, and it also has the thought form and the emotional vibration and frequency behind those words, like that comes out in the snowflakes and the water crystals and the plants and all the studies that they've done on healing and hurting words, right? So it's really fascinating how it keeps coming back to everything is energy, everything is vibration, and words are one of those powerful conduits for creating and manifesting vibration and frequency.
And there's such a within the scientific community, right? There's such a reluctance to sometimes to have an open heart and an open mind when it comes to these, because one of the counter arguments that I've come across is, the moon and the tides, right? How, the moon affects the water on our planet so much. And we are, as Mindy said, some quotes say 60 to 70% water, some are 70 to 80% water. Why doesn't the moon cycles affect us if we are that much water?
It does. Right? It does. Don't you realize? Remember, like Every full moon, you're going to find more people in the emergency room. Every full moon, because it's a full moon, it has a larger impact on us on Earth, and so that's when people start. Don't you ever notice that? That's when crazy things happen.
Listen, in my years in HR, whenever something wonky was going on, I remember the HR manager and always used to say, "Is today a full moon?" And we would go check, and lo and behold, it was a full moon.
It does affect us.
Yeah, that's the origin of the word lunatic. Luna means moon in Spanish, as you know. So that's interesting word origin.
For sure. I do believe in the power of words, and in what Mindy just said, and we have discussed in the past with you, Dr. Lemmon, in the power, the power of hope, right? And I even said, how does hope become, a physicality? And it is through that intention and through the actual words. But the thing is, I think we're a lot more careful about the words that we use when we're communicating with other people, opposite to the words that are not said out loud. Do those words count for the intentionality in the outcome in the body and mind and inner energy?
Yeah, again, going back to the Bible, there's that foundational moment with Moses in the burning bush, and God says, "I am that I am." That. So people talk about those "I am" statements as being one of the most important things. So anything that's connecting to your identity, and especially your divine identity, if you say, "Oh, I'm a klutz," I'm always late, whatever. Like, we say these kind of trite things on a daily basis, and we're speaking those words of power in a negative way that's kind of programming our life. But if we want to, create that positive momentum and that upward spiral of healing and vitality and happiness, you obviously want to say, "I'm happy, I am happy, I am happiness, I am joy." And that starts to, but obviously if you just say it mechanically, "I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy," then there's not as much of a vibration with that. So it's aligning the energy of the words with the energy of the emotions, with the energy of the thoughts, with the energy of the feelings, and lining up all those things so that you have that. So your face is happy, your words are happy, your frequency is happy, and then all those affirmations are in alignment with each other.
I like that. And now Mindy and I are communication ninjas. We have had so much training when it comes to the different communication styles and such thing, right? So words sometimes don't mean what we say, or the words are non-congruent with our action, or as Dr. Lemmon just said, with our intention and such. And what do you think? How do you think the communication styles that we use, in part of me doesn't like to use those communication styles as a crutch or a cop out. It's like, "Oh, this is the way I speak, therefore, comply," right? Or and it's almost waiving responsibility for the words that we use. Mindy, what has been your experience? You work a lot, your experience, because you work a lot with leadership within the medical community. That has been your core ground, and teaching it. Does it surprise people when you bring this awareness?
So, it's everybody's different and everybody takes it in differently, but people always speak to other people in the way that they like to be spoken to, not the way the other person needs to be spoken to. And so it's so kind of going back to, the communication styles that we've talked about, understanding somebody's communication style and pivoting slightly towards it really helps you to engage with that person. It helps that person to feel safe within your space, because that's really what we want when we're engaging with people, for them to feel safe so they can open up and they can engage.
And he's taking responsibility. I remember, and to this day, I quote you on it because it's such a brilliant comment, Mindy. when we were speaking of authenticity, and you know how everybody keeps saying, show up authentically. And Mindy's like, no, what if you're not a nice person? And we use a different word. What if you're not a nice person? Don't show up authentically. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
take responsibility for the energy and frequency you're putting out to the world through
Mm-hmm.
your words.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
one of the frightening things, and I want to this is for Dr. Lemmon, is that, you know, that inner voice in those inner words, they're with us 24/7, even in our dreams, right?
Mhm.
Imagine having a bully on
Mm.
your case, or a critic on your
Mm-hmm.
case 24/7. How debilitating is
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's called the devil. He does that to us every day. And that's why we need to put on our armor of God so that we can't hear him and we can't hear all of that noise that the devil tries to send into us.
What is something we can do, Dr. Lemon, when our inner dialogue begins to feel toxic?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a really cool quote. I wish I could remember it perfectly, but it's kind of based on that idea of Jesus taught to love your enemies, right? And so we're, like you said, we're sometimes more gentle and loving towards others than we are to ourselves.
Mhm.
And so there was, I think, might have been Carl Jung that said something about we've been told to love our enemies, but what happens when that enemy is yourself?
Oh,
Are we willing to love ourselves as an enemy and love ourselves back into friendship and be our own best friend kind of idea? So it's a really interesting thing where you have to make that shift sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We all have different programming, different backgrounds, and different influences, whether it's some subconscious parental issues or
mhm.
abuse or bullying from school, or obviously the devil's part of that invisible frequency and influence that affects us every day. But yeah, just taking control and shifting that just shifting the lens
The
to
narrative.
not bullying yourself, not getting down on yourself, but focusing that I'm a child of God too. I deserve love as well as everyone else, kind of thing. So, and then focusing the affirmations and the prayers and the hymns and all those things in that positive, beautiful way of I am healthy, I am beautiful, I'm loving, I'm
It's called
all the
brainwashing
all the
yourself.
things that you want. Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
wash that brain out sometimes.
Yes, we can brainwash ourselves into thinking bad about ourselves, and we can also brainwash ourselves into thinking good about ourselves.
The enemy within, right? That is just the wildest thing. And even preparing for today's show, I was trying to find images, and I came across that study that you mentioned, Mindy, about plants. And it showed a plant that had been bullied. And all I could think is, why on earth, or how can you bully a plant? Like, how sad is that, right?
Cool plants.
But we do it, we do it not to plants, but
To
we
each other.
may be bullying someone without realizing we are doing it,
Yeah.
right? Because it's how the message is received. Especially that tough love, right? That, depending on culture. I was exposed to not to a different culture than mine. We trust me, we have our issues, but I was exposed to a complete different culture where if someone's not saying anything, that's a good sign. So the only time they speak is when there's something wrong,
Mm.
right? Okay, but if you think about it, it's like every time you speak to me, it's because I've done something wrong. And these were the loveliest of people, right? So our culture and in our upbringing and those early voices have such an impact on how we show up for the rest of the world. But I don't think they give us a free license. I think there is, just like in your work professionally, Dr. Lemon, and in your advocacy, Mindy, How can someone even begin to become aware that their words are harming someone? Not the obvious ones, because the obvious ones are, like shut the dog up, right? But like words that are a little bit more nuanced. How
Mm-hmm.
can someone begin to bring about awareness to themselves? That's for either, you're bringing it more from leadership and faith, Mindy, and
Mm-hmm.
of course, Dr. Lemon from energy and frequency.
Do you know the best antidote to anxiety? Because a lot of the times you've got all this self-talk that's going on that's creating anxiety. You cannot. They actually did studies where they looked at brains. You cannot be anxious and grateful at the same time. So the antidote to that, those toxic tapes, those toxic conversations that you have with yourself, is to switch the script. You can't just stop it. You have to actually change it and actually start looking around and being thankful. So the
Yeah.
first thing I give to all of my clients to do is a grateful exercise.
Hmm. That's a good idea. Yeah. And Dr. Lemon?
Yeah, the um, I was so focused on her answer. What was the question?
How can we help people bring about awareness on the impact of their words on others?
Yeah, I think it doesn't come naturally for sure. It's kind of against human nature to we kind of go on autopilot and can kind of have those cutting words or being a little short with their children or spouse sometimes, or family or friends or strangers or whatever it is. But I think it's that cultivation of mindfulness, of just cultivating that action of the observer, watching yourself, and just maintaining that self-awareness of, okay, these are the words that I'm speaking to myself, to my children, my spouse, my strangers, and what do I want those words to be, and then trying to create that upward spiral of more loving, more positive, more beautiful words. We have, it's kind of increased, I think, because of the modern medicine with resuscitation, but the near-death experiences have kind of been exploding in the last 30, 40 years because of that CPR and the being able to resuscitate people from heart attacks and things like that much easier than in 100 years ago, say. So there's just so much more literature now on the near-death experiences, and every single one that comes back from the other side, what do they talk about? The only thing that matters is love. Love is the purpose of life. Love is what heaven is all about. Love is what earth is supposed to be all about. So when it's not, that's a mismatch of the blueprint that it's supposed to be. So let's move it more towards that loving, mindful action. And
Loving
am I
kindness.
being
Yeah.
loving to myself? Am I being loving to others? Is pretty much the golden rule. That's all there is.
Yeah. And a lot of our language, and not just the actual words and the actual language, but the choice of words in the narrative, we're not born with it. Right? We learn it along the way. And in coaching, there's a really powerful exercise where you begin to recognize a pattern when someone's speaking, especially negatively. Oftentimes, even their voice changes, and excuse me, their demeanor changes. And that's the opportunity to ask them, like, who's speaking right now?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, where did you first learn that? Like, go forget the word, forget what you're saying. I want to know, where can you think back, or when was the first time that you heard that concept?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, they're able to realize this is all learned behavior. And if you learned it, you can unlearn it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And take responsibility of an ownership of your impact, vibrational, literal, to the world, because it also bounces back on you.
Mm-hmm.
And before we go away, I want to touch on something that you said, Mindy, and I love to hear what Dr. Lemon thinks about these. Was praying and being grateful before you eat. Does it have to be out loud? And what impact does it have on the food we're ingesting and just in general?
So I don't think it has to be out loud, but I think it is good if you speak out loud, because think again, God spoke the world. He didn't think it. He didn't think the world into existence. He spoke the world into existence. And our food is also made up of water.
Mm-hmm.
So when we pray over our food, it's being blessed into something that's going to even be more nutritious and fulfilling for our bodies.
Yeah. Dr. Lemmon?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Obviously, God can hear our thoughts and we can hear our thoughts. And those are the two most important beings when it comes to prayer. So it works silently, but when you speak the words out loud, you're adding that auditory vibration of the sound waves that creates that extra oomph of vibration and energy, a new layer of vibrational medicine for adding to any prayer or affirmation or anything.
Yeah.
And that's where the chanting comes in. I've had experience listening to it. I've never had any experience doing it, but I can just imagine what that must feel like in your body. So, guys, thank you, triple gratitude, thank you. And we're going to have many more conversations, because anybody that thinks that spirituality doesn't cross lanes with intent, with outcomes, with influence, everybody wants to be an influencer. Great better way to be an influencer than to influence goodness in the world
Absolutely.
with all the senses and with everything we do. So thank you so much. And we'll put all the links to the research, to, of course, Dr. Lemmon's book, Mindy's book, and heck, we'll put in there my book too. So
You go.
thank you. And we will see you next week. Until next time.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Bye.